From punching marshals to kicking rivals, this is what happens when Formula One drivers lose control. When stress, emotions, and adrenaline mix, the outcomes of podium finishes, race wins, and world championships can change dramatically. Sometimes these intense moments result in unforgettable incidents in Formula One history. Let's explore some of the most iconic ones and the events leading up to them. First on the list is the infamous crash between Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard at the 1998 Belgian Grand Prix. This race is renowned for several reasons, and if you haven't seen it, you're missing out on one of the most legendary Formula One races ever. One of the main reasons for its fame is the utterly chaotic and crash-filled start.
Coulthard into the wall, they'll stop the race,
they'll have to red flag
this is terrible. Oh, this is quite appalling. This is the worst start for a Grand Prix that I have ever seen in the whole of my life.
I guess you can see why people remember this race so well. There was more to it than its ridiculous crash, though. A lot more. By the way, spoiler alert in case you haven't seen this race. I know it's been 26 years, but you never know. The second reason it was so iconic was because Damon Hill won it for Jordan, and this was their first ever win. Even better, they finished 1-2. The only way a race can get more memorable than this is if two championship rivals crash into each other in a dramatic and controversial way. And well, that is exactly what happened.
Oh God! Michael Schumacher hits David Coulthard and is out!
The third reason this race is so famous is because of what happened between Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard. The rain was diabolical from the very start to the very end of the race. It just kept coming. We all know that Spa's weather can make it really dull, real quick. But that didn't stop Michael Schumacher from building a huge gap of over 30 seconds over Damon Hill. Schumacher was about to lap Coulthard, who was the teammate of championship leader Mika Hakkinen. Coulthard slowed down to let Schumacher pass, but because the rain was so heavy, Schumacher didn't see him. He instantly broke the right front suspension on his Ferrari and was forced to retire. When Schumacher got back to the pits, he was far from happy. Anger didn't come close to describing it. He was absolutely fuming. He was convinced that it was Coulthard's fault, saying he should have let him by in a section of the track that wasn't as dangerous. Schumacher got out of his Ferrari and stormed down the McLaren pit straight away to confront him.
He's storming down the pit lane, presumably to go. Look at him. He's saying, "I'm going to the stewards." James, can you enlighten? He's going to Coulthard. He's going to have it out with David Coulthard.
Coulthard said that when Schumacher arrived, he accused him of trying to kill him, repay the favor. He also said that Schumacher threatened to kill him. So yeah, it's clear. It wasn't Michael's favorite day at a racetrack. Wet races can definitely cause chaos. Some drivers thrive in these conditions though, and some just don't. Cue Valtteri Bottas. See, not all overtakes are created equally. Valtteri Bottas found us out the hard way in 2021 when insult was added to injury at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in Imola. Lewis Hamilton was battling it out at the front with title rival Max Verstappen. The race was going to be remembered for their battle at the start and for Hamilton running into the gravel.
Hamilton is forced wide and he's lost a little bit of bodywork as well.
But that was until this happened.
You get a safety car now because that's Valtteri Bottas and George Russell who are out of this race.
So yeah, Bottas was seriously underperforming in the fastest car on the grid. Because of this, he found himself way down the order in P9 on lap 32. George Russell was 10th in his Williams. To be honest, the car had no right to be there. But this mega performance in the wet showed why he was first in line to take the Mercedes seat the following year. Now hold that thought for a second. Not only was he set to take Bottas' seat, but in this race, he was about to take his position as well.
What the fuck was he doing? Honestly, is he a fucking prick or what?
Russell came barreling towards Bottas into the kink turn at almost 200 miles an hour, and it didn't exactly end well. As the pair got side by side, the pair smashed into each other in an outrageous crash. Russell's Williams pushed the Mercedes onto the wall, got a bit airborne, and the two made extremely hard contact. They were thrown across the track, eventually coming to a rest at the gravel trap along the other side of the track. Russell took another huge hit, headfirst into the barrier too. After checking if they were still on the right side up, it took a second for the drivers to get their bearings. Once they did, George Russell hopped out of his Williams and set out on a mission. He stormed over to Bottas' smashed Mercedes to have a word, and it turned out not to be a very friendly one. After a short but clearly intense chat, Russell smacked Bottas' head out of pure rage, and at the same time, Bottas showed Russell the middle finger. Talk about an iconic scene. As you'd expect, they blamed each other for the crash. Russell was first in line to replace Bottas for the following season, so the tension was already there. And it didn't exactly please Toto Wolff either, since he'd monitored Russell for years, helped him get a seat in Williams, and was going to be his future boss. Russell didn't do himself any favors here, but in the end, he didn't end up getting penalized for the crash. Sanctions can be tough to decide on when it comes to this sort of overtake, but it's truly ridiculous when it happens between the race leader and a lapped backmarker. In 2018, a young Max Verstappen found himself doing just that. But the big difference here was that Verstappen was the driver getting overtaken instead of the one doing the overtaking. Let's rewind a bit first.
It's ahead of us here at Interlagos. It's lights out and away we go. They weren't held very long at the start.
Max had put his Red Bull fifth on the grid in qualifying, and future arch-rival Lewis Hamilton was on pole. In the race, though, the order was shaken up. Max drove brilliantly and made it to the very front, leading the race near the end. On lap 44, Esteban Ocon was on softer tyres and tried to unlap himself in his Force India. This happened.
That is Max Verstappen, the race leader, and he has spun.
He was furious with Ocon and made it clear on the radio.
Yeah, I know what to say. I hope I can't find him now in the paddock, because then he has...
Max lost the lead because of it and ended up finishing second to Hamilton. After the checkered flag, Max's engineer knew that there was nothing he could say that would cheer him up.
I don't know what to say, mate. I do not know what to say about that.
When they were at the post-race weigh-in, cameras caught a near fight breaking out between them. Even after this, it still wasn't over.
You can unlap yourself, but you have to take caution, and he clearly didn't, and he got a penalty for it, so I guess that says enough.
The first lap I stayed behind. The second lap the team said, oh, you can unlap yourself if you want, so I went around the outside, but yeah, clearly he didn't give me enough space. Max, I was side by side, so I couldn't disappear, and then I saw he turned and we went to collision. But what I'm really surprised of is his behavior after the race. We went on the scale, started to punch me, wanted to punch me and stuff, and this is not professional. He can be upset, but if you are leading the race, you have to control it, and today, I got the penalty, but I have to review the image. I was side by side to me. I think it was my corner, and that was it.
Ocon got a 10-second stop-and-go penalty for crashing into Verstappen, something a driver would usually get mad at, right? Well, Max got community service for pushing Ocon after the race, so when Esteban heard that, he probably didn't feel as bad. And even though Esteban didn't take any proper punches, that's not always the case in F1. Back in the good old days, the Hockenheimring in Germany was a stop on the F1 calendar. By the way, if anyone is listening from F1, I think I speak for all of us here. We want it back. Anyway, in 1982, someone who wasn't as enthusiastic about it was Nelson Piquet. He was leading the race in his Brabham, and everything was going smoothly for the Brazilian. He came up behind backmarker Eliseo Salazar, who was driving for the team ATS at the time. Piquet was lapping Salazar and started what it should have been a simple routine overtake on him. He was expecting Salazar to make it easy for him, but Salazar did the opposite. Salazar had slowed down enough into the chicane so that when Piquet turned in, he got a nasty surprise. Salazar hit Piquet and sent him into the tyre barriers, breaking his rear wing and ending his race. Piquet hopped out of his Brabham immediately, visibly livid at losing the race lead. He stormed over to Salazar and decided to show him how he really felt.
I couldn't help it. And take that. Oh my goodness.
Out of nowhere, he started pushing and punching Salazar hard, and even threw a kick in for good measure, which barely missed. Salazar didn't respond with any hits of his own. He was probably too shocked to know what to do. To make it even more entertaining, it gave us one of the funniest Mario Walker quotes of all time.
I couldn't help it. Said, "And take that." Oh my goodness.
It was like he wanted to commentate on a boxing match rather than a Grand Prix, which, to be honest, is what it looked like. To make it even crazier, Piquet had mentored Salazar closely in the 70s and helped him to get into F1. I mean, if he attacked a friend like this, what would he have done to an enemy? In all fairness, however, this was a very rough week for F1. Gilles Villeneuve had passed away just a few months before, and his Ferrari replacement, Didier Pironi, had a monumental crash in qualifying for this race that ended his career. Piquet was troubled by this, so this caused his outburst just 2 days later. Who knows? But it's remembered as one of the craziest responses to an accident in F1 history. I say one of the craziest because the worst one might go to James Hunt. Hunt was fond of showing exactly how he felt, on and off the track. After his life and battle with Niki Lauda was portrayed in the movie Rush, it exposed his legacy to a ton of new people. One of the, let's say, less brilliant parts of his legacy came about in 1977 at Motorsport in Canada. This encounter with the Marshal didn't really portray him in the best light, but if you know James Hunt, you know he probably didn't care. He was driving for McLaren at the time and was battling the Lotus of Mario Andretti for the win. The two had lapped every other driver except for Hunt's teammate, Jochen Mass. When Hunt was trying to lap Mass, he went onto the grass, lost control, and hit the wall, his front wing and suspension in the process. And before he knew it, his race was over. A marshal appeared to help Hunt out of the car, not knowing what condition he was in. It was clear pretty quickly that he was fine, but he was obviously far from happy to be retiring from the race. For some reason, Hunt started walking back towards the track. Maybe it was to find his teammate Mass, who he basically blamed for causing the crash. Sort of like he did in Monaco in '75. Yeah, it's not the first time Hunt caused post-crash chaos. But this one in Motorsport got a whole lot crazier. The same marshal ran after Hunt and grabbed him, trying to pull him back to safety. To everyone looking on, this was a completely reasonable thing to do, but not to Hunt. Without any hesitation, James spun around and did this. He punched him so hard that he knocked him to the ground. The outburst was completely unexpected, especially towards someone as innocent as a track marshal. Hunt was visibly incensed, with his hand gesture showing his disbelief at the whole situation. Just moments later, though, he had his arm around the marshal. Yeah, after he realized he was completely out of order. Hunt was definitely one of the most energetic Formula One drivers at the time. And in a strange way, it was for reasons like this that he was different from any other drivers. More relatable, more loved. Eddie Strong didn't think so, though, and that was the name of the marshal who pulled the short straw that day. Strong was asked about it 3 decades later, and he was still annoyed and upset about the incident. How did I feel? Wronged, blindsided. Did that really happen? He was right to be this shaken up too. Hunt hit him so hard that he cut his jaw and left him in an ambulance. We got an all-time quote from Hunt, though. I was right up his chuff. I was forced to go left. Then he suddenly moved across to the left, hit the brakes and waved me through on the right. But I was committed and couldn't avoid him. I hit him right up the ass. I can't imagine an F1 driver getting away with saying that nowadays. Lance Stroll got away with this, though. He did a shocking job in qualifying in Qatar last year and got knocked out in Q1. Alonso was literally over a second faster than him in the same session. He clearly didn't feel like having a chat after he got out of the car. And his trainer was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
The end of Q1, he qualified 17th. His personal trainer there just coming over to have a chat. Then Lance appears to shove his personal trainer out of the way, clearly not happy with the way things had gone out on the track.
Lance appears to shove his personal trainer out of the way. That's inexcusable towards a team member, if you ask me. Even with all the crazy outbursts that I've just shown you, most of the drivers got penalized in some way. It's pretty obvious why Lance got away with it, though. If your dad has control, you can lose control, yet lose nothing. It makes you wonder, if he really deserves a seat or not. Are his results good enough? Is he really holding the team back? Are there better drivers ready to replace him?